Okay, in this first example, I'm going to show what happens when equal amount of light is added. In this case, when I have one flash and I add a second flash, what happens to the f-stop? And then in the second example, imagine that second flash is actually the ambient light. And that's what happens in aperture priority mode, is it matches the flash to the existing ambient light. Okay, so that's what's going to be shown here. Flash on the left is turned on. It's set at f2.8. I'm going to show that. I zero my meter out. I show you that my flash meter is set at 0 at 1/125th of a second. Okay, so I'm going to trigger the flash on the left with my external trigger, and you'll see that it reads f2.8 at 1/125th of a second, roughly. Okay, and the second light on the right is, I zeroed the meter. Second light on the right is set to f2.8, and so the question is, what happens when you have equal amounts of light? What happens to the f-stop? How much does it increase? And when you look, equal amounts of light, it's f4, which is one additional stop. This is not a problem in aperture priority or shutter priority mode, program mode, as the camera automatically compensates for the additional light. And you can see that for yourself in my next test by just turning on the flash and watching what happens to your shutter speed. I took a picture in both cases here that you don't see. Aperture priority, evaluative metering, ISO 400, f5.6. And what you're going to see is when I meter with no flash on, I have 1/13th of a second, which is close to a 15th. 15th to a 30th of a second is one stop. And so I turn the flash on, I meter the subject again, and you will see that the camera automatically changed the shutter speed to 1/30th of a second. So it increased the shutter speed by one stop to compensate for the added ambient exposure that equals that of flash. So anytime you have some existing room light and you turn the flash on in aperture priority mode or shutter priority mode for that matter, the flash is going to try and balance the light with the ambient light. Okay, so for the chart here, basically anytime you're in aperture priority mode and you have evaluative metering on, flash matches the ambient light and compensates by one stop. In shutter priority mode, same thing. Flash matches the ambient, only compensates with the aperture instead of the shutter by one stop. And so the thing you got to keep in mind is anytime you turn off evaluative metering or go to manual camera mode, now the flash and ambient act as separate exposures, and you are the person that has to adjust for this. Just keep that in mind, and all has to do with this one stop of balancing light.